On October 23, 2022, three students from the College of William and Mary got in a car and drove to Crawford Road to film a documentary. Their car was found the next morning, under the bridge, engine running, doors open, no one inside. All three were found in the woods within 200 meters of the vehicle, alive. But none of them could explain what happened. Not then, not since. All three remain in psychiatric facilities to this day. The only thing that survived is the footage. A dash cam, an interior cabin camera, and a handheld camera belonging to one of the students. All three recordings cut out at the exact same second. Before that second, 43 minutes of material. After it, nothing. I'm going to tell you what's on those recordings, frame by frame, and you can decide for yourself what happened to them. But first, the place. Crawford Road is a narrow back road in Yorktown, Virginia. Single lane, no markings, no streetlights. It cuts through dense forest. Old pines packed so tightly that even during the day the road sits in half darkness. Branches hang over the pavement like the ceiling of a tunnel. At night, your headlights hit the wall of trees and die about 15 meters out. Halfway down the road, an old concrete overpass, a low bridge buried under decades of graffiti. Names, dates, pentagrams, crosses, curses. The paint layers, one drawing bleeding through another, and another beneath that, like geological deposits of fear. Every generation left its mark, as if everyone who passed through felt the need to prove they were here, and that they made it out. This place has a history, a long, tangled, and unpleasant one. Crawford Road wasn't always a back road. In the 19th century, it was one of the main routes connecting farms to the river. They hauled tobacco, lumber, livestock. The bridge was built in the 1930s when a railroad spur went through. Then the spur was shut down. Then the farms emptied out. The road remained, and the forest began taking it back, slowly, year by year, narrowing the gap, buckling the asphalt with roots, dropping the branches lower and lower. By the 1980s, Crawford Road had become what it is now, a forgotten passage through the woods, used only by those who know the way, and those looking for solitude. That's when, at the height of the satanic panic, the forest around the bridge became one of those points on the map that every kid in the county whispered about. They said a cult gathered here, that rituals were performed in the woods, that clearings held altars, stones arranged in circles, melted candles, animal bones, symbols carved into tree trunks. They said sacrifices were made here, that if you drove to the bridge at night and killed your engine, you could hear chanting, low, monotone, coming from everywhere at once. Most of it was mass hysteria multiplied by teenage imagination. The altars were most likely built by local kids who'd read too many horror stories. The bones were from chickens. No abductions were ever documented. A standard urban legend feeding on itself. Rumor created evidence. Evidence reinforced rumor, and every new teenager who showed up at the bridge with a flashlight and a can of spray paint added another layer. But here's what doesn't fit. The legends about Crawford Road existed long before the satanic panic. Local residents born in the 40s and 50s all said the same thing. Their parents forbade them from going near the bridge, without explaining why. Just don't go there, as if the place itself had been marked decades before anyone painted the first pentagram on that bridge. And there's more. Police who searched the forest after the October 2022 incident found notches carved into tree trunks within a 50-meter radius of the bridge. Repeating patterns. Forensic analysis dated them between 30 and 50 years old. This wasn't teenagers with a pocket knife. This was systematic work. Dozens of trees, the same pattern. Someone did this deliberately and a long time ago. The patterns were sent to the Virginia Historical Society for identification. The response came 6 weeks later. The symbols didn't correspond to any known system. Not European, not Native American, not any documented occult tradition. The historian who wrote the assessment added a personal comment that never made it into the official report but was part of the leak. He wrote, "The symbols display internal logic in a repeating structure, suggesting a system, but they don't match any language, alphabet, or ritual framework known to me. I cannot determine what they mean, nor can I determine who created them." 50 years, dozens of trees, an unknown language, an unknown author. In a forest that locals said, "Don't go there," long before these symbols were ever carved. Now, the students. Ethan Price, 21, film studies. Chloe Dunn, 20, journalism. Marco Reyes, 22, anthropology. They were shooting a student documentary about urban exploration sites in Virginia. Abandoned buildings, urban legends, places with history. Crawford Road was the third stop on their route. They arrived in a gray 2017 Honda Civic registered to Ethan. 3 cameras were running inside, a dash cam facing the road, a GoPro mounted on the dashboard facing the cabin, and a handheld stabilizer camera that Marco used for exterior shots. All 3 devices recorded to their own memory cards. All 3 ran on batteries independent of the car's electrical system. This is important. Remember this. The recording begins at 11:07 p.m. The car turns off the main road onto Crawford Road. Headlights carve a narrow corridor of asphalt between the trees. Inside the cabin, the usual chatter. Marco retells the legend of the bridge. Chloe comments on the atmosphere for the film. Ethan drives in silence. Nothing unusual. At the 5-minute mark, 11:12 p.m., the bridge appears in the headlights. Gray concrete, graffiti, low clearance. The car stops 15 meters from the overpass. Marco steps out with a handheld camera to film the bridge up close. And here's where the first anomaly appears. On the handheld camera footage, while Marco films the graffiti on the bridge, the background shows forest. Far back between the trunks, roughly 30 meters from the road. For 1 second, a dim reddish-orange flicker, like a bonfire. 1 second and it's gone. Marco doesn't notice. The camera captures it. 11:19 p.m., Marco returns to the car. At this point on the GoPro recording, someone turns off the radio, because underneath the music, a sound, a low, monotone hum. Not mechanical, nothing like an engine or wind or an electrical transformer. Steady without fluctuation, as if the air around the car had begun vibrating at a single frequency. Forensic analysis later identified the frequency, 18.9 hertz. That's right at the edge of human hearing. Most people can't hear sounds below 20 hertz, but they can feel them. Infrasound at this frequency, according to published research, induces unexplained anxiety, discomfort, the sensation of an unseen presence, and, due to vibration of the eyeballs, the illusion of movement in peripheral vision. This frequency is known in acoustics as the fear frequency. The source of the hum was never identified. 11:22 p.m. The car slowly moves under the bridge. On the recording, voices can be heard. One of the students suggested testing the legend that the engine dies beneath the overpass. The car enters the bridge. The engine stops. not gradually. No warning. Engine, headlights, dashboard, everything goes dark simultaneously. Total darkness. All three cameras switch to battery power. The dash cam and GoPro shift to infrared mode. On the cabin recording, a short scream, presumably Chloe. Then Ethan's voice trying to start the car. The starter doesn't turn. Silence from under the hood. Several attempts. No result. But the hum didn't stop. On the contrary, on it without the engine noise, it became clearer and louder. The next 4 minutes of footage show rising panic in the cabin, repeated attempts to start the engine, and discussion of the situation. All three had working phones, but calling a tow truck into the woods at night meant waiting hours. They decided to push the car out from under the bridge. And here, 11:26 p.m., the second event occurs. The hum changes. Until this point, it had been monotone. One note, one frequency, no variation. At 11:26, it begins to pulse, rhythmically, at an interval of roughly 2 seconds, like a heartbeat. On the audio spectrogram that experts later constructed, it appears as a perfectly even sine wave. No natural source produces a rhythm that's stable. Simultaneously, the light in the forest returns. On Marco's camera footage, aimed through the side window, the reddish-orange glow can be seen between the trees. This time it doesn't fade. It pulses, in the same rhythm as the hum. Brighter, dimmer, brighter, dimmer, synchronized, as if the sound and the light were parts of the same process. 11:28 p.m. Someone opens the car door. On the cabin recording, it's Ethan. He steps out of the car, 1 foot on the asphalt, and freezes. The moment the door opens, the hum floods the cabin. Inside the closed car, it had been muffled. In the open air, it's something else entirely. On the recording, the sound pressure level spikes so hard that the GoPro's microphone begins to distort. This isn't loudness in the usual sense. You don't hear infrasound with your ears. You feel it with your chest, your bones. Ethan stands at the open door. He's looking toward the forest, to the right, where the glow is. On the recording, only his back is visible. He doesn't move for 7 seconds. Marco's camera is pointed in the same direction at this moment, toward the forest through the open door. On the recording, tree trunks in infrared light. The glow in the distance. Between the trees, nothing. The camera captures no figure, no silhouette, no movement. But at the 29th second of this segment, the trees sway. Several trunks, roughly 20 meters from the car, simultaneously lean in one direction. Toward the car, there was no wind. Weather station records for the county confirmed. Wind speed that night did not exceed 3 kilometers per hour. That's not enough to sway a mature pine. 7 trees, simultaneously, in one direction, as if something passed between them. Something the camera can't see. I'll tell you why this matters. A common pine, 30 to 40 centimeters in diameter, weighs between 800 kilograms and a ton. To visibly sway a tree like that on camera requires physical force, wind, impact, an earthquake. The seismic station 40 kilometers from Yorktown recorded no activity that night, no wind, no impact. But the trees swayed. 11:29 p.m. Ethan gets back in the car. The door closes. On the cabin recording, all 3 voices overlap. Difficult to make out. From what was later deciphered, Ethan says he saw something between the trees. Not a figure, not a shadow. A compression in the air. Chloe demands they leave. Marco says the car won't start and they need to push. And at that moment, on the 31st minute of the recording, The hum changes again. The pulsation accelerates. The interval between beats shortens. 1.5 seconds, 1 second, less. The glow in the forest, brighter. On Marco's camera, the flickering transforms into a steady light. Reddish-orange, unnaturally even, without the wavering of flame. Not fire, something else. Something stable and stationary. And beneath the hum, a new sound. Voices, not words. Voices. Multiple voices merging into a single monotone stream, like a choir singing one endless note, or like a crowd whispering all at once. Frequency analysis revealed a minimum of 12 distinct vocal ranges layered on top of each other. 12 voices at minimum, in the woods at midnight, in a location where police later found no trace of human presence. 34th minute. On Marco's camera, aimed toward the forest, a flash, sudden, a fraction of a second. Red-orange light floods the trees. On the trunks, clearly unmistakably for a single frame, those same notches are visible, symbols carved into bark. Dozens of trees, the same repeating pattern, receding into the depth of the forest. Then darkness, and at this moment all three cameras capture the same thing. Vibration, not sound, physical vibration. The image on all three recordings begins to shake. The dash cam, mounted on the windshield, trembles so violently the picture blurs. The GoPro on the dashboard, the same. Marco's handheld camera, the same even though he's holding it in his hands. The car is shaking. All of it as if the ground beneath it is vibrating, or as if something very large and very heavy is walking down the road toward the bridge. On the recording, this lasts 11 seconds. Then, silence. Absolute, instantaneous, unnatural silence. The hum cuts off. The voices go mute. The vibration stops. No wind, no insects, not a single sound. As if someone pressed a mute button for the entire forest. 3 seconds of silence. On the recordings, 3 cameras capture an empty, dark forest and 3 people sitting inside a car. And then all 3 recordings cut out. Simultaneously, at the exact same second. 3 devices running on 3 separate batteries with 3 separate memory cards. Shut off in sync. Forensic analysis of the memory cards found no corruption. The files aren't damaged, aren't truncated, aren't overwritten. They simply end. As if all 3 devices simultaneously received a command to stop recording. All 3 batteries still had charge remaining. None of them should have shut off. But they did. All 3. In the same second. Timestamp of the final frame, 11:49 p.m. Police arrived at Crawford Road the following morning, October 24th, after a call from Chloe's parents when she didn't come home. The patrol reached the bridge by 10 a.m. The officer who first stepped out of the car later described the scene. Quiet, unnaturally quiet for a forest in the morning. No birds, no wind, and a smell, not rotten, not chemical, just different, like the air was heavier than it should be. The car was found under the bridge. The engine was running, at idle, smooth as if it had just been started, headlights on. All 4 doors open. The ignition key was in the off position. The engine should not have been running, but it was. No one was inside. On the back seat, 3 backpacks, Chloe's jacket. The GoPro lay on the floor in front of the passenger seat. Marco's handheld camera was on the back seat. The dash cam, in place, on the windshield. All on battery power. All drained to 0 even though at the time of the last frame, sufficient charge remained. Ethan was found in the woods, 120 meters east of the car. He was sitting on the ground, back against a tree, eyes open. He didn't respond to voice, to touch, to light. Body temperature, 35.2 degrees Celsius, with an ambient temperature of +11. His jacket was zipped up, shoes on his feet. He hadn't tried to leave. He was just sitting there, staring straight ahead. Chloe was found 70 meters to the north. She lay on the ground in the fetal position, hands covering her head. When an officer touched her shoulder, she screamed. One scream, short like a blow. Then silence. She didn't make another sound. Marco was found farthest away, 200 meters southwest of the car. He was standing face first against a tree, pressed right against it, forehead to bark, arms hanging at his sides. Rescuers estimated he had been standing like that for no less than several hours. There was no expression on his face. He wasn't speaking. All three were hospitalized. None gave a statement. None spoke a coherent sentence for the first 10 days. Ethan spoke first. 12 days later, he said 4 words to a nurse. "It's still here," then went silent. A week later, he repeated the phrase, word for word. He repeated it every few days for months. He said nothing else. Doctors diagnosed acute stress disorder with catatonic features. Chloe has not spoken at all. She remains in inpatient care to this day. Doctors describe her condition as persistent dissociative stupor. She responds to physical stimuli, but not to voice, not to questions, not to the presence of other people, as if she's not there, as if part of her consciousness remains somewhere else. Marco was the only one who showed progress. After 3 months, he began answering questions. Short phrases. He remembered the drive. He remembered the bridge. He remembered the cameras running. But when asked what happened after the recordings cut out, he went silent, not refusing to answer. Just silent, as if there's a void in his memory where that moment should be, or as if what he remembers cannot be put into words. One time, only once, he said more about that night than usual. The psychiatrist documented it in a report. Marco said, "We shouldn't have stopped. The cameras shut off because it doesn't like being watched. When the cameras went off, that's when it came. And we didn't see it, but it saw us. It saw inside." He never spoke about it again. I'll tell you one more fact. It's not in any police report. It's not in the press. It was told to me by someone who works at the facility where Ethan is held. All 3 patients are in different institutions, different cities, different states. They don't communicate. They have no access to one another. But every night, between 2 and 4 a.m., all 3 are awake. All 3 sit on their beds with their eyes open, staring at a single point. The wall. Staff at 3 different clinics documented this independently. When psychiatrists compared their observation logs, everything matched. Time of waking, accurate to the minute. Duration, exactly 2 hours. Posture, identical. Seated, hands on knees, eyes open, gaze fixed. None of them blinks more than twice per minute during those hours. The norm for a human being is 15 to 20. They're all looking in the same direction. Southwest, toward Yorktown, Virginia, toward Crawford Road, as if something in that forest is still watching them. And they're watching back every night for 3 years now. Crawford Road exists. The bridge exists. You can find this place on a map right now. Open Google Maps, type in the address, look at the satellite image, a narrow strip of road in a green mass of forest. Drive out there during the day, step out, touch the concrete, read the graffiti, laugh at the pentagram some kids sprayed on with a rattle can. Nothing will happen. An ordinary place, an ordinary bridge, an ordinary forest. But if you go at night And if your engine goes silent under the bridge, don't open the doors and don't look toward the forest, not because you'll see something, but because something will see you from the inside.